Okay, so now we want to look at the 9 traits that may be associated with either sensory-seeking behaviors or sensory avoidance in your ASD spouse. So the first one we'll call sensory limit. This is related to how sensitive your ASD spouse is to physical stimuli, for example, sounds, taste, touch, temperature changes, and so on. And it also refers to the amount of stimulation needed to elicit a response, positive or negative, in your spouse. For example, is he a picky eater, or will he eat almost anything? Does he startle easily to sounds? Does he respond positively or negatively to the feeling of clothing? Does he react positively or negatively to particular sounds? Okay, the second trait of sensory-seeking behaviors or sensory avoidance would be predictability. This trait refers to the regularity of biological functions such as appetite and sleep. For example, does he get hungry or tired at predictable times, or is he unpredictable in terms of hunger and tiredness? The third trait we're going to call perseverance. This is the length of time your ASD spouse persists in activities in the face of difficulty. For example, does she react strongly when interrupted in an activity? Does she persist in an activity when you wanted to interrupt her and talk about something? Number 4, disposition. This is the tendency to react to things primarily in either positive or negative ways. For example, is your ASD spouse generally serious? Is he generally in a happy mood? Or does he tend to focus on the negative aspects of life? Does he tend to see the glass as half full or half empty? Does he focus on positive aspects of life? So we call that disposition. Number 5, emotional energy level. This is the intensity of a response, whether positive or negative. For example, does your spouse get upset in a very strong and dramatic way? Or does he just get quiet when he's upset? Does he react strongly and loudly to everything, even relatively minor events? Or do most things seem to just roll off of his back? Number 6, physical energy level. Now this refers to how active your spouse is in general. For example, is he always on the go, or does he prefer sedentary, quiet activities? Does he have difficulty sitting still? Does he tend to wiggle, squirm, or pace? Next, let's look at attention level. This is the degree of concentration and paying attention that's exhibited when your spouse is not particularly interested in an activity. This trait refers to the ease with which external stimuli hampers the ongoing behavior. For example, does she become sidetracked easily when attempting to follow routine or working on some activity? Is she easily distracted by sounds or sights? Is she easily soothed when upset by engaging in some self-soothing behavior? And number 8 is approach withdrawal. This refers to the person's typical response to strangers or a new situation. For example, does your ASD spouse eagerly approach new situations or new people? Or does he seem hesitant and resistant when faced with new situations, people, or things? So that's the approach withdrawal trait. Number 9 is flexibility. This is related to how easily your ASD spouse adapts to changes and transitions. In other words, switching to a new activity. For example, does she take a long time to become comfortable in new situations? Does she have difficulty with changes in routines or with transitions from one activity to another? So those are the 9 traits of sensory-seeking behaviors or sensory avoidance. We have sensory limit, predictability, perseverance, disposition, emotional energy level, physical energy level, attention level, approach withdrawal, and flexibility. So just bear in mind that sensory processing difficulties in people on the autism spectrum have a huge impact on your relationship with your ASD spouse. A person on the spectrum who is experiencing these difficulties will react to you and his environment in ways that are unpredictable and kind of irrational. For example, if your ASD spouse is overly sensitive to sound, then he can react negatively to your voice inflection or the volume of your voice. And so as a result, you may be confused by his reaction, which may result in you feeling that he doesn't want to listen or has no interest in your good message.